Dr. Jen Berman has been counseling celebrity couples for more than 20 years and is now treating 5 celebrity couples in season 3 of VH1 Couples Therapy. But
go ahead. Yeah, so look, I know you got your hands full on this show, but we just have to delve into a little bit of the gossip that's been going on around there. Let's start with a couple things. So Kim and Kanye, very big now. They picked this child's name. Their baby name is Northwest, right? How do couples, I'm not going to judge that, but how do couples, when they sit down and they say, I want this name, I would like it to be Mark Jr.
I think it's just like with any couple about any issue, you have to work together as a team. I think it was really interesting that the baby didn't get a K name. To me, that shows that she's individuating from her family and that she is putting her loyalty with her baby daddy, which is where it's supposed to be. So I thought that that was a good sign.
James Woods, making headlines, dating a girl 46 years, not old, but younger than he is.
Yeah. And season 2 of Couples Therapy, we had Doug and Courtney, who had a huge age difference too. And this season we have Joe and Abby, where he was 34 when they met and she was 20. Sure. So I see this a lot. And when we have a guy who chooses someone so much younger and in her early 20s, when she hasn't even fully developed as an adult, a lot of the time, that's a guy who wants to be in control. It's a guy who frequently has been in a caretaking position growing up in his family of origin. So he picks someone where he can be the caretaker or where he can kind of fix her in a lot of ways. And a lot of the time, believe it or not, it's the guy who's afraid of being abandoned. And that's an issue that came up this season with Joe and Abby that was really interesting.
Really, I would think you would think with a younger woman that he stands a bigger chance of, as she matures and she grows, that she will leave the relationship.
Ironically, yes. But oftentimes we pick what we are most afraid of happening, and then we create it in our lives.
Well, just real quick, what about the man who needs to be in control of the relationship? Because if he had a woman who was his peer, he wouldn't be able to control her as much.
And that happens a lot. That's very common with huge age differences.
Well, speaking of sort of leaving a relationship, there's been Billy Ray Cyrus and his wife Trish going through the split, but you got Liam and Miley, who are together. Some people are saying, even though there's rumors of their split, Liam staying in that relationship to help her through that. If that's true, is that good?
Anytime you have a couple where someone stays together because they're worried about the other person, it's not healthy. Better you support her as a friend, because what typically happens then is you get through the crisis and then they break up. Yeah. So it's better to be more authentic and just be there as best as you can for one another.
Sound advice. You are giving a lot of that advice on your show this season. Biggest surprise for you? Are you ever surprised by the stuff you face, first of all?
I'm never shocked, but I am sometimes very surprised, and sometimes in good ways. I was really surprised with Joe Francis this season. I came into this, and as a therapist, we do our best not to have our own biases, but I came into this thinking, I don't know, is this guy going to be able to participate in therapy in a meaningful way? I had my own ideas, and he did.
Joe, just so to background, Joe is the guy who created Girls Gone Wild. Okay, go ahead.
So what is the biggest issue he has with his girlfriend on the show?
Well, there are a number of issues. She has an eating disorder, and they've been together for 5 years, and that's been a huge, huge issue that he has sort of tried to take over her treatment because he's afraid of her dying, and her eating disorder got really bad at one point, but she has to take over her own treatment, and also she's lost her voice in this relationship, and he has some fears about her leaving him.
Now, very controversial, gentleman, Flavor Flav.
And his girlfriend, Liz.
Yes.
What's most challenging about the two of them? He's very outspoken. And
yes, he is.
Bigger than life.
Yes, he is. As are many of my celebrity clients, especially on VH1 Couples Therapy. I think that, Liz and Flav, they've been together for 9 years. They have a child together. It was really difficult, and it was challenging in many ways to work with them, because they would go back and forth between totally embracing the therapy process and doing this incredible, meaningful, deep work, and then being so resistant, and where their issues as a couple played out and got so volatile, where she would pack her bags and be like, I'm done with him, I'm done with this experience, I'm out of here, and that made it particularly challenging.
How much is it, you say this about, this experience, did they come into this show thinking, oh, it's a TV show and I'm just going to show up and read my lines, if you will, and then step out?
It's hard to say. I think season 1, there was no show they could watch prior, so they had no idea what it was about. And I think some of those people came in going, oh, we'll drink Mai Tais by the pool and we'll do a little light therapy. But I think this season, people kind of knew, if they saw season 2, you do intense therapy here, but I think sometimes people don't realize how authentic this show is. There's nothing scripted here. This is the most authentic show on television.
But isn't it true in therapy, though, that every couple, no matter if you're a celebrity or not, hits that wall when they're going through therapy?
It's so true, and it's such a great point. I'm so glad you bring this up. And I said so often to these couples, I expect you to resist me. I expect for that to come up. And you see this come up over and over this season, especially with this couple, that it's a normal part of the therapy process to resist your therapist, but they take it to a whole new level this season.
They do.
You know,
oh my.
Can you, for people who are watching at home, the Bickersons, if you will, that are constantly at each other, is there any takeaway? You know, people say all's fair in love and war. Is there anything we could leave our audience watching going, you know, I just wish we could take our relationship to, if we hit a plateau, how do we get to the next?
I think most couples don't listen to each other. They're so busy being defensive, and you see that with Flav and Liz this season, where she tells him how she feels about something, and he can't hear it because he's so busy getting defensive, and I think we all do that to some degree, that sometimes you just have to hear what your partner's experience is and acknowledge it so they feel heard, and that's magical in a relationship.
Get them to do that.
Listen.
To just stop and listen.
I have them trapped in a house with me for 3 weeks. I get to push and push and push,
Right.
and I get to watch footage of them when they're not with me. I get to watch them on cameras and come back at them and say, look at what you just did. And I think that the audience relates to that.
Sure.
And that's so meaningful to me when I get tweets and Facebook messages from people saying, your show, just watching your show has changed my relationship.
But you hear this too, people, you see it on the show, that she's lying. That's not true. That's not what happened. What do you do? You're in a corner, like going,
and what
well, what
I
is the
said to
truth?
Flav when he said that about Liz is, this isn't about the details of whether those are right or wrong. This is her experience of a relationship with you.
Right.
And you have to pay attention to that. If you don't hear your partner's experience of what it's like to be in a relationship with you, because you're so caught up on, no, I came home at 9 o'clock, not 11 o'clock, you miss your relationship and you miss the opportunity to connect.
Yeah.
Do you just have to go home and purge all of it and just leave it? Can you bring your
This
stuff?
was a pretty, it was a very intense season. And at the end of it, I'm not a big sleeper. I am able to work, because I love my work so much, on not a lot of sleep. I went home, I slept for about 12 and a half hours.
It drained you so much.
I'm a little jealous, actually. I could use some sleep. Be sure to check out VH1 Couples Therapy. It's on Tuesdays, 10 o'clock, 9 Central on VH1.
And you can check out drjen.com or visit on Twitter, which is at Dr. Jen Berman.
Okay, up next, thank you so much,
Doctor.
Jen.
Thank
Up
you.
next,
Always nice.
hope your tummy's not full, because we're going to cook some lobster tails 3 different ways. Not 1, not 2, but 3. Cousins, Sam Lomack, and Jim Salikas. Outside, we're coming, guys. We're coming out.